Welcome back to your guide to fractional work as you start building your journey from this 9-to-5 traditional approach into the modern day workforce. In this episode, we're going to be talking about negotiating contracts and rates. I'm not going to get into the legality or numbers part. I'm going to get into the base foundations of how to start this, what to put in your contracts, and what to make sure is really clear as you move forward with clients. And some of this is from theory and research of how you approach contracts and rates, and some of it's just from my own experience of trial and error. So hopefully by telling you some of these stories, you will avoid some of those pitfalls that I had. Now, it's interesting that I teach on results-oriented teams and change management and preventing burnout while still getting productivity. And some of these negotiating contracts and rate factors are similar to results-oriented teams. When you look at results-oriented teams where they all have a common goal, they're all moving forward and they can go off in different directions and adapt to the factors that come in, but they always get back to the ultimate goal, the end outcome. These are the factors that go into results-oriented teams. They have clear, SMART goals. All right, so very clear. The employees manage their time well, so a lot of good time management. Leveraging technology so that we're not double duting work or going around in different files and media to try to find information. Regular feedback so that we're rerouting during checkpoints instead of rerouting at the end. And then team accountability. Does everyone know what they're supposed to be doing and when they're doing it? And does everyone have those same expectations across the board so we can hold each other accountable? And so it's interesting when we're talking about contracts and rates, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the behind the scenes factors and foundations of how this working relationship is going to go smoothly and be successful at the end of the project. It's something to consider as you're building this contract is, are you hitting all these factors that makes the client feel comfortable and that this is going to be a success, especially because fractional work is new. Contract work's fairly new for a lot of companies. And then, of course, that part-time or temporary nature in a more professional, high-level expertise way is also going to be new. So making them feel comfortable that we're going to get a result is going to be important. So keep these factors in mind as you start building your contract. And that will put everyone at ease, both you and the client. Other factors to consider as you're building your contract and your rates is both parties need to be setting clear expectations and a project scope of what this looks like. And certainly you can adapt as it goes, but make sure that you're getting that in writing so that everyone really understands what we're doing. Because, for example, I have many different facets in HR that I can provide value in. But if they hire me for this, and then they have this come up over here and they're like, "Ooh, Kelly, can you help me out with that?" Okay, well, this is still going to be my primary and I can help you with this, but this is what that will look like because I'm not going to fill a full-time role for you. And it was interesting because I actually saw this in my part-time job as I built this business. I was working part-time HR and their business was growing. And so it actually started out like just getting an HR person there, getting some HR operation type of functions going within the organization. They were growing, so they had some compliance things come up, like new policies they had to roll out. How does recruitment and talent planning look? You had to be a little bit more strategic about that as you grew. And it became this big role, all right? And I managed it very part-time, and I'm very impressed with how I managed my time in that, but they needed a full-time person as that role grew. So I came in with a scope of this, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew with the company. And we never had these conversations. So that was a pitfall that I had in my contracts and rates is I came in for a strategic HR role, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And because I'm very willing to take things on, I did it at the cost of my own sanity. So I went way over my hours often, and we should have been having conversations of you need a full-time HR person at this point. You don't need a fractional worker or a part-time worker. So contracts not only set clear expectations for payment, clear expectations of hours, but just so you can manage other projects. When you get really good at fractional work, you're going to have projects here and projects there and projects there. And if you let it loose, and all three of those are hitting at once, you're not going to have enough time to do a really nice job. And the only reason why you're going to get hired again is if you do a really nice job. So that's the results-oriented focus you want to have is protecting the parties so you can get their project completed in what you were hired for, and you can protect your other projects that you need to get completed for the other clients. Now, setting rates. You need to research some industry standards. Like I said, go out on Fiverr, Fiverr, see what people are charging for certain things. See what industry standards are for salaries in these type of roles, especially the strategic roles, and kind of break that down a little bit. And then factoring in your experience. So I think the common thing that happens with new people to fraction work is they undervalue themselves because they want to get started, they want to get their portfolio built. That's fine, right? Almost using it as a marketing tactic is I need to get some clients under my belt, some testimonials. I'll do it a little cheaper. That's great. As you get good at it and have really good success because you're providing value, then you can start to up your rate, especially as demand comes in. Then you know you're getting some grip on the market, and that's when you should raise your rates. I think that there are some people that I have met that have overpriced themselves. And why would I hire a fractional work for that cost when I can hire a fractional worker over here? So there's that competitiveness too that's going to start coming out as people get into fractional work. Is there are some positions, fractional positions, that they can hire someone else. And so unless you are the number one person, which will be very rare, you are going to be overcharging if you go too high. So really gauge that. And I think the best way to do that is network with other fractional workers in your field. And it's not really a competitive, like I'm going to underprice you or anything. It's let's help each other. Where are you learning and developing to stay up in your industry? What type of hurdles are you running into when you get into project scope or creating your contract, things like that. So you want to be networking with people as a support mechanism, as mentoring each other, as kind of like a mastermind group, and not as competitors. Because let's be real, if we're talking like strategic HR, if it was Kelly and another person, Tony, there's only 2 HR people, right? There's still not enough of us to go around in this fractional work. And we each have our own little spins on how we want to approach it too. So networking with people and having that support as kind of entrepreneurs is going to aid on your journey. Now, if you get yourself into a pickle in a bad relationship with someone that's a competitor and they're underpricing you because now they know your price, that's a relationship you need to exit, because that's not a very supportive one. It's not a very energetic one. So surround yourself around people that are genuine and humble and honest and want to help clients, and they're not going to do things like underprice you. So setting rates, just know your value. In the beginning, if you look at all the development and setting up this fractional work and your business operations in the background, you're not going to get your bang for your buck for a little bit. So also keep that buffer in mind, and we'll go through that in a future episode, some hurdles and challenges you're going to go through as you set this up. But keep in mind, it will feel like you're not getting paid your worth for a little bit as you start building this up, because you're getting everything up and running. It's in the startup phase. Now, negotiating tips. As you talk with clients, I think it will be kind of a shocker, people's response to your contract rate. And that's what I had too, is if they wanted to hire me for some trainings for 2 hours, and we're going to be training every month through this program in change management, at the end they see the sticker price, and it usually a comment is I don't have the budget for that. So then I'll reverse it and say, well, I have virtual options. It's not as effective. I'm a certified virtual trainer, very engaging. Obviously you see my content out here. But it's another option and it's cheaper. And then so we'll go through back and forth what fits in their budget to still get the project done. The thing that you want to stick with though is, what is the solution? So when I'm speaking about change management, there are things that I need to do in person, right? I need to get people connected and talking and brainstorming together and create that community. And that's harder to do in virtual. So I just kind of put some things out there that are going to deter us from the end outcome, and then they can play with their budget a little bit and see what this looks like. I'm going to lead them to water, but then they need to figure out how big is that water bucket. And then understanding the client needs. I don't oversell because I want them to return. So if I know that they also have this project and they also have this project that I can do, I'll mention, oh, I heard you say these 2 things. It seems like this is the primary. Let's start there. And then when we get towards the end of this project and evaluate how that did, which I think it will be successful based on how we're setting this up, then let's look at these other two. So you're kind of setting yourself up, but you're not overselling like, I can do all these things for you and solve all your problems. That's icky sales. All right. Start somewhere and then kind of leave the nuggets. Give them the sweet appetizer of your successful project completion, and then go after the big meals. And that has aided me well. I have a lot of returning clients, and it aids in marketing and not having tons and tons of sales calls with a lot of them not going through. They just keep returning, right? Hey, Kelly, can you do this for us? I have people calling me for things that I don't even do. And they're like, hey, do you do something like this? So you want to get in that spot where they just have like a lot of trust in your work, and they love your energy, how you work, how you treat them. And so they return to you for a solution, whether you have the solution or not. And that's a good spot to be. And then another negotiating tip that I want to say is to know your value. So I have undervalued myself. That's the other pitfall that I've run into is I wanted the business, I wanted to build up my portfolio, and I did something for very low price and it became a monster. We didn't talk enough about the scope or the timeline or the hours to put into it, and it became just this giant monster. And I put, weeks and weeks and weeks of effort into it, and I got paid like pennies. And when you broke it down per hour, I was getting like $2 an hour. It was just a monster. And it's because the scope wasn't tight. So we got into all these black holes, and because I was the solution partner, I kept getting in there, and it grew. It grew into this monster. So just know when you're negotiating that what is the end outcome? What does that scope look like? And if you go out of that scope, let's have another discussion, because at the end I felt really icky. Yeah, I got paid, but like $2 an hour. It wasn't worth it. So how all in do you want to go in some of these contracts? And then when you're negotiating contracts and rates, just keep in mind any legality type of things, like if you get sick, if you get ill, if you have a medical incident and can't complete the project, what does that look like? So I do a lot of speaking engagements, and if I can't speak for some reason, which has not happened, knock on wood, somewhere, that I get sick and I can't actually go to a conference, because I'm not going to show up to a conference and get everyone sick. It hasn't happened yet, but if it would happen, they can reschedule me within a year. Or some of the contracts will say, that I'll refund their money. It all just kind of depends on what you want to do. And so I have some of those stipulations in there that if the one person completing the project is unable to perform for medical reasons, this is what that also looks like. So again, really creating a clear picture of what this partnership's going to look like in order to get that end outcome. So I hope that helps with creating some of your negotiating contracts and rates. There's plenty of like sample contracts out there on the internet. I'm not going to provide them because I'm not going to get into the legality of it, but just make sure that those underlying tones and foundations of the result are in there, so that it's clear of the project work that you're going to do, the scope of the work that you're going to do, the timeline, and then what that looks like as the project continues on if it evolves into something bigger. Make sure that you're subscribing and continuing along as we dig into time management and productivity as you juggle multiple projects, building client relationships, and balancing that work life, so that you're moving to fractional work for personal freedom and that flexibility that you were looking for.